Hello. Hope everyone's doing well this evening. Welcome to our first presentation to kick off our virtual fair. Lovely Laura, who's our admissions officer for our rehab science programs, and she's going to be talking about studying physiotherapy in Australia. So take it away.
Good evening, everybody. So glad you could join us today. I'm so excited to talk to you about rehab sciences programs, especially physiotherapy. We have a lot of really great students who come from an athletic background and have often had to make use of physiotherapy in their own lives and now want to share that skill with the world. And I think that's a wonderful thing. My name's Lara Klimko. I'm the lady on the left there, and the lovely lady on the right is Leanna Turner, my partner in crime, and we are the dynamic duo that are going to help you get from A to Oz. Okay, so today we're going to talk a little bit about Oztrack, the universities that we work with, and some of the bigger degrees that we offer to some of our students. So most students either come through rehab sciences in a physiotherapy background. A lot also do chiropractic, but we have other programs that I'm going to show you later as well. I'm also going to give you just a brief rundown about the steps that you have to take in order to become licensed to practice professionally if you choose to come back to Canada. A lot of students do stay in Australia. Okay, so here are some of the universities that we work with. As you can see, there are quite a few. We have 14 universities, 13 that are in Australia and 1 in New Zealand, which is Otago. Unfortunately, we don't have any rehab science programs there yet, but dentistry is definitely a big program there. So in the rehab sciences space, we mostly work in and around the cities of Adelaide, Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane and the Gold Coast. Okay, so COVID-19 has, of course, made a lot of impact to a lot of students and a lot of universities around the world, and Australia and Canada is no different. So what has happened with, we've got 7 major programs in the physiotherapy space. 4 of them have been able to start some of their programs online with students being able to apply for travel exemptions in order to travel to Australia to join their classmates on campus, either for semester 2 or in year 2. But there are 3 programs that don't have that ability. So no international students have been able to start either in 2020 or 2021. So, and that may even roll over into the first semester of 2022. Feels like the borders are really, really close. I can feel it. Could be any day. So hopefully things are going to change for semester 1, but we do have to prepare for the possibility that 2022 won't be a possibility for some international students in semester 1. So the impact that this is going to have going forward is that a lot of students have had to defer to subsequent years. And this means that there are fewer seats, because when spots are deferred, that means those seats are already taken from previous years. So there are fewer seats and more applications. So that means that the space becomes a little bit more competitive for students. Okay, so that aside, let's look forward to the future with optimism. So here's how the process works when you start an application in the rehab sciences through Oztrack. So you've already started with step 1, which is to connect with Oztrack, to figure out all of the details that you need to start an application, to ask questions, find your details, find your eligibility, and we'll help you with that, especially in step 2, because your next step is going to order your transcript. Official transcript is best, unofficial is okay too, but the first step is that we can take a look at your transcript. We can see which prereqs you've covered, which ones you haven't, what your GPA is looking like, and then try to find you the best fit, where you'd be most eligible and most competitive, because we want you to succeed. We don't like to submit applications that we know won't succeed. Then we move on to part 3, which is to get your documents together, to apply online. So the next step would be to start an application through Oztrack. So this is a free service, which means that you can just start online with Oztrack. This is an internal application at first, so nothing gets sent to the universities right off the bat. First, we'll collect all of your documents. We'll make sure we've got all of your documentation in order before we submit to the universities. After your submission has gone through the assessment process, then we'll move on to step 4, which is an offer. And so many students like to apply to as many programs as they can. And then they have the very nice problem of having several offers from which to choose and try to decide which one is the best fit for them. Well, we can help you with that too. We can give you a little bit of background about what the culture at each university is, the size of the city, the size of the university, and try to tailor it to the kind of experience that you would like to have. Whether you prefer to be in a big school or whether you'd like a little, like a family, small town type of feeling in your postgraduate education. Then once you've made your decision, the next step is to go into the pre-departure stage. So this is where you would get your compliance information, so your vaccinations, your police checks if you need them, get your travel arrangements, your visa applications, all of that stuff. We can walk you through that process as well. And then you're ready to go. Step 6, you're on the plane, you're on your way, finding your accommodations and starting your program. Okay, so let's go over some of the admissions requirements that are needed for an application for physiotherapy. So we've got two kind of streams. Well, they're the same. Each of these programs is either a Master of Physiotherapy or an Extended Master of Physiotherapy, which is also called a Doctor of Physiotherapy. I'll get into what that means in the next steps, but you can see that there are 4 DPTs and 3 MPTs. So the DPT is a 3-year program or a 6-semester program that sometimes gets squished into 2 years in the case of Bond University. And the others are 6 semesters squished, spread out over 3 years. The Master of Physiotherapy is a 2-year or 4-semester program. And so the main difference between these two types of programs is really just the length. Both are equally eligible to come back to become licensed to practice professionally in the province of your choice or in the United States, if that's where you're headed. The Doctor of Physiotherapy, because it's a 3-year, 6-semester course, there's a little bit more in terms of scope of what you can study. So you've got more time to develop specialties. You can have more coursework and more clinical hours under your belt. And you can start looking into doing research. So if you want to move on to an actual PhD in physiotherapy, this research will give you a very good basis to start an application there as well. Okay, so the basic admissions requirements for physiotherapy are really twofold. There's GPA and there's prereqs, and that's about it. They're not really interested in your professional or volunteer experience. They don't really want to see reference letters. Personal statements are also not required, essays, additional admissions testing, nothing, just prereqs and GPA. So the prereqs that you're going to need at the very basic level is at least 1 semester of anatomy, 1 semester of physiology, and a semester of statistics. That will get you into 2 programs, Melbourne and Monash. However, the rest of the programs all require at least 2 semesters of anatomy. And I know that this is where a lot of students struggle, because especially if they're coming from a program where only 1 semester of anatomy is offered, we've got resources to try to help you boost that anatomy. Some other courses that you'll need to show for prereqs will be things like psychology, statistics, or research methods, biomechanics, exercise prescription, and a minimum of 70 GPA, which is about a 2.7 out of 4. That is sort of like the minimum to apply. Competitive starts at about 2.75. So we're looking at 75 and up, or in the Australian scale uses a 7-point scale. So 5 out of 7 and up to be competitive. Okay, so what do I need to do to come home to practice? Well, there are really 2 extra steps that all internationally educated students must take. I'll get into the next slide, but I do want you to be rest assured that all of the programs that are offered through our Australian university programs are internationally recognized, equally able to become recognized in terms of your qualifications. So they'll be assessed as equivalent or better than Canadian education. The biggest thing you'll need to look out for is clinical hours. The Canadian Association of Physiotherapy Regulators requires 1,025 clinical hours. Most of those programs will be built, or most of the hours will be built into the program. The Master of Physiotherapy being only 4 semesters are sometimes a little bit short. I think Sydney is probably the most short at 80 hours, but there are ways, again, to work around that. There's either an extra clinical placement you can take that is built into the program, or you can you can start working professionally right out of the gate. All of these programs are accredited by the Australian Physiotherapy Association, so you can become licensed pretty quickly after grad. So that's something to think about as well. Okay, so those 2 steps that you need to complete as an internationally educated grad are to complete a Context of Physiotherapy in Canada online course. This is a course that you can take while you're still studying in Australia or shortly after grad while you're getting your credentials assessed, which is step 2. So to have your credentials assessed by the Canadian Association of Physiotherapy Regulators, you'll essentially submit all your documents as though you were applying for university. So they'll want to see all of your course outlines, your transcripts, and proof of your clinical hours. Then the next 2 steps are the same for anyone, including domestic applicants. So you would write the physiotherapy competency exam. So there, up till now, there's a written and a physical, or a OSCE. So it's done in 2 parts. So after you've completed the written part of the exam, you can apply for a provisional licensure, which means that you can work in Canada under supervision while you wait for your OSCE. The next step is to register with your provincial regulatory body. This will often include an extra step like a jurisprudence exam and proof of insurance, but I urge you to get in touch with the provincial regulatory body in the province in which you choose to live and work, because they'll have their own sets of criteria. So I strongly suggest that you do that. And we've got the resources online, or you can ask me and I'll give them to you myself. Okay, so that's not our only rehab sciences program. We also have occupational therapy, chiropractic, audiology, and speech pathology. So let's blast through those real quick. Okay, so we've got 5 programs in the occupational therapy space. These are 2-year Master of Occupational Therapy programs, and again, equally able to become licensed to practice in Canada in the province in which you choose to live and work. The chiropractic program has 2 pathways. One is an undergraduate pathway. So if you have a background that is not health sciences, or if you're coming right out of high school, you might want to start with the Bachelor of Chiropractic Science, which will automatically lead into the Master of Chiropractic. Or if you already have an undergraduate degree and you have the prereqs of human phys and human anatomy, then you can blast right into the Master of Chiropractic program and finish it in 3 years. Both of these pathways will allow you to come back to Canada to practice. Speech pathology and audiology. These 2 programs go hand in hand. So to come back to Canada, you'll need to have a major in one and the minor in the other. So if you major in audiology, you'll need minor classes in speech pathology and vice versa. There are strict and stringent requirements for coming back to Canada, and a lot of them revolve around hours. So I urge all students to keep careful track of coursework and clinical hours to make sure that you have enough to come back to Canada. Now, we have some wonderful students who are currently studying and who have volunteered to be our Oztrack ambassadors. These are students who have a lot of experience being in course, or either onshore or offshore, and they can help you if you have questions about their experiences, if you have questions about the program, they'll be happy to help you. Okay, and please, if you have questions, do join us in our rehab sciences room during the rest of the fair, and you can get in touch with me by phone, by email. You can book me through Calendly, however you like. Please do ask me questions. I've got lots of answers for you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We actually do have one question that popped in that we have time to cover.
Sure.
For the admission for GPA, do they look at all years of your undergrad or only the last few?
Good question. Okay, so it's not like in Canada where they only take the final 16 or 20 or 40 or whatever it is. It's your cumulative GPA. So all the way from year 1 all the way to year 4 if you've taken an honors degree, or the final 3 years. In the case of Melbourne is the only university that does a weighted assessment. So they'll only look at the last 3 years of your undergrad, and then they weight it with increasing weight throughout subsequent years. All of the other universities, it's all cumulative.
Perfect. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Laura. And thank you so much for joining. Don't forget to head back to Career Echo and chat with the rest of our team and our university partners.
Fantastic.
Hope you enjoy the rest of the fair.
Hope to see you there. Take care.